Hey guys, today I'm joining in on the dog pile on Bungie in Destiny 2. That's just a joke. Look, the game is far from perfect, and I want to talk about some issues I have with it, and I don't want to blanket statement some of these. I just want to talk about the specific issues I do have with the game at the moment, and I think next week I want to talk about some of the things that I love about Destiny, because I think it's important that as consumers that the feedback we give is quality feedback. We're not just saying, hey, you did a bad job, you're awful at this, you don't know what you're doing. That's not going to help anyone. Like, if we tell Bungie what we do like about the game, maybe they'll take that feedback and say, okay, how can we implement systems that made this so great into other things? And if we tell them specifically what our pain points are with what we don't like, they can look at those and say, okay, how do we fix this? Or should we just remove this? Kind of like the power grind every season. Like, they kept reducing it, but this year they said, hey, let's just cut it out completely. And that's amazing to me. So let's just talk about some of these. I want to get into some specifics on certain things. So yeah, the lightfall narrative. It wasn't great, but it's also not over because it's tied to this year's seasons of content, which if the seasons go away when the final shape comes out, a new player joining in and playing through all the campaigns that are in the game now is going to be very confused to like the origins of the Witness, which happened in this season instead of in Lightfall. So that's going to be gone from the game unless they keep that cutscene in. I don't understand that decision. Like, Lightfall should have been Lightfall, and then the season should have added onto it with separate storylines, kind of like how the Witch Queen seasons and the Beyond Light seasons were. They just added on to the themes of that expansion and led up to the next one. That's what they did. They didn't extend that expansion. And that just might be the plan they had for this year, to shake it up and make it different. But I wish we'd go back to the old way of, here's a season of content that isn't directly connected. It's a branching off story that will advance the story, but not in a, hey, here's the origins of your enemy that we should have told you, and the origins of the MacGuffin of the expansion, in a piece of content that's going to disappear in less than a year. That doesn't make sense to me. Okay, let's talk about the servers for a second. I'm not one of those people that thinks that porting the game to Unreal Engine 5 will do anything, because it won't. It'll make the game probably feel worse, because part of the magic of Destiny is the Tiger engine and how it feels to play in it. And it's not as easy as just flipping a button. They would have to rebuild the entire game. Everything about the game would have to be rebuilt in a separate engine. But maybe they could make improvements to the servers, which would greatly, increase the quality of life in the game. I'm not asking for dedicated servers. I would love to have that. But I know before Shadowkeep came out, Luke Smith talked about how that wasn't really something that could happen in Destiny 2 because of how much changes they would have to make to the engine to allow that. But it would be a goal for Destiny 3, and that's why Marathon's getting it, because it came out, or it was being worked on at the same time as Shadowkeep, I'm pretty sure. So they had that in mind. Plus, it was a PvP only game, so that was more pressing to them to get that done. But if they could have like a town hall meeting, some type of way, just sitting down, talking to us about the servers, even if it's just a TWAB, I think that would help a lot. Because we don't know what's going on. We just know that every Tuesday, it's down. Every time they release a hotfix, it's down for hours. It's just annoying at this point. And I think every hour we go unscheduled maintenance. Like, if it's scheduled maintenance and it's announced, that's fine. But if your 2-hour scheduled maintenance turns into 6 hours, you should give us a little bit of bright dust for that. Not silver. I'm not saying silver. I'm saying bright dust. Just like 50 to 100 bright dust for every hour over. Because, like, some people only have those certain hours to play, and Now, in the US, it's usually during normal working hours or normal school hours, but during the summer, kids are out of school, and there's other parts of the world where they live in different time zones. So that could be the only time they could be on, and it's the time most people would be on in those parts of the world. So that downtime is really annoying for a lot of people, Bungie, and it needs to be addressed. Another massive elephant in the room, Crucible. I don't think Marathon is what's killing Crucible right now. I think Bungie just doesn't know what to do anymore with it. One, it's free to play, so they don't have much incentive to fix it. You notice how Trials is really the only part of Crucible that receives updates? It's because you gotta pay for Trials. But normal Crucible, why would they mess with the meta too much if there's no incentive to? Like, people aren't paying to play the Crucible. So why would they change it? It's just one of those things, you know? They add these little tiny additions here and there, but never a whole lot. But I think for the longevity of the game, Crucible needs a lot of help. Because for some people, that is the game. The game is the Crucible. And for others, it could be like their end game. Like, hey, I got this cool weapon in a raid. I normally don't play Crucible, but I want to see how it works in there because it's a great role for that activity. But if it's miserable to play, I wouldn't say it's the worst PvP I've ever played. Honestly, that's Apex Legends Team Deathmatch. I hate it so much. That's why I uninstalled the game. But the Crucible is horrible. Honestly, I hope they go back to the 30th anniversary meta or even Season of Opulence meta. It just felt way better. I could use a scout rifle and be competitive. I could use double primary and be competitive. It wasn't solely specials. I know a lot of people were using special at the time, but I could succeed with double primary, and my abilities weren't a crutch. They just helped every once in a while because I was using handheld supernova, so it was basically a pocket shotgun. But now everyone has abilities all the time, so gunplay went down, especially scout rifles, because you can't kill someone fast enough with it. And snipers aren't good enough because they get too much flinch. Like, there's just a lot of problems with Crucible. Gunplay needs to go up. This sounds like year one Destiny 2 kind of talk, like what led to that. But honestly, I had more fun in year one of Destiny 2 than I am now with Crucible, at least. And if you're a PvP player and you're angry with the way Bungie treats the Crucible, honestly, I know you don't want to stop because you want to play Destiny Crucible, but honestly, play PvP in another game. Like, the only way they're going to listen is if they get less money from you and the playtime tanks. So if you find another game that you like just as much, if not more, stick to that, because it doesn't look like Bungie cares at the moment. And I feel like Bungie needs to realize the way the Crucible is right now is affecting people's perception of Marathon a lot. They're going to think that Crucible was taken out back and put down because they were making a PvP game. They're going to think that Marathon on launch will be one of the worst PvP experiences in gaming right now, or when it comes out, because of how the Crucible is right now, how horribly unbalanced and unfun it is. Those are things that are being assumed about Marathon when it's probably nowhere near release yet because of the way Bungie is treating their current PvP game right now. It doesn't matter their pedigree with Halo. Halo is considered one of the best PvP, most competitive PvP games ever made. It wasn't made for that, but it just is. Doesn't matter. Because their current game that they currently work on has a bad PvP experience. So Marathon is being tied to that. I hope Marathon's successful, but a lot of people don't have any faith in it because of the way you treat the Crucible. Okay, let's talk about Gambit, which has, honestly, meta-wise, it's not in a bad place. I just wish they had an endgame Gambit game mode similar to Trials or GM Nightfalls. I have a whole video about that, and I think it kind of falls in line with what I still think about it. Maybe bring back rules for it only one of each role per team, card system, that whole thing. I think it could be very fun. Yeah, it gives Gambit some maps. Bring back the 2 old maps. Like, it's not Gambit Prime. It's not built to be competitive at the moment. It's just a fun game mode. You could bring back the Tangled Shore map, I guess, but the Dreaming City map probably never should have left. Like, honestly, I have my problems with it, but I think it's kind of just as balanced as the Nessus map. Like, it's not that different to me between the two. Just bring back the old maps, make new ones, make another game mode. I know I'm saying just do this. But those are my pain points, and I know it's not that easy, but Gambit and Crucible both need new maps, and bring back the old maps that people liked. Gambit, just bring them all back, because there's 6 total. So, yeah, that's Crucible and Gambit. Just, they need more. I know they're free, but Bungie. The game is free to try, not free to play, and I don't think there's necessarily an issue with that. But you got to give free players something to do. Like, and the PvP experience needs to exist, especially if you're pushing a PvP game on us. Like, people are not going to buy it if it costs money. Anyways, away from PvP, the seasonal economy. Let's talk about paying for seasons. So they increased the price to equate $12 in silver instead of 10, which that's whatever. It is what it is there. That's just what it is. I'm not complaining about that. It's a $2 increase. I just get the annual pass anyways. It doesn't affect me really. But it would be nice if Bungie would give silver back in the pass. Maybe it's just 500. Free track gets 200 after completing the whole battle pass. Like, it's later on the battle pass that you get your silver, and the paid track gets 300 more. So if you pay for it, you get 500 back, meaning you only need 700 more to get a new pass. So people can, after the course of seasons, just keep getting seasons for free. Or it would encourage them to look at Eververse and buy the things they want. And since they're already spending more time in their Bungie, maybe they'll pay for silver to buy more things in there. And I don't buy microtransactions for silver. I wait until they're on the Bright Dust store. I don't think I've ever paid real money for cosmetics. Like, I might have gotten silver from doing a Bungie survey and spent it on a cosmetic instead of a season, like a long time ago. But yeah, I just don't really believe in buying cosmetics. I know some people do. It's whatever. I don't care anymore. But just give us some silver in the pass or something. That'd be nice. And let us grab rewards from previous passes. Like, I know you can grab the rewards you got, but my biggest complaint about Battle Pass system any game is once the season's over, even though you paid for those cosmetics technically, you can't get them because you're not playing that season anymore. But if we could grab things from the old season catalogs, that'd be nice. Like if the season pass from Worthy was still around, I could get the ornament for Tommy's Matchbook. Just things like that. Of course, I'd still need to get the XP and the levels. Like MCC, Master Chief Collection has different season passes or battle passes for each game. Like they're themed around different games and they give you different sets of armor and stuff. And you can just apply your levels to whatever pass you want. I think once you reach a 100 in the current season's pass, all the other XP goes to like legacy levels. And whenever you get a legacy level, you can apply it to a former pass to progress it to get all those other cosmetics and things that you missed out on before. I think that would be a great way to make new players able to acquire old stuff. But yeah, that's just something I've wanted for a long time. Strike quality. I guess is also quantity because we don't get them that often. Generally the new strikes that we've gotten have been pretty good, but strikes and battlegrounds are very different. Strikes are more mechanic based, while battlegrounds are more enemy density focused. So I think, honestly, I want more strikes. I want to make sure that they're at a good quality. I think a good first step would be bringing back some of the old D1 strikes that are in locations we have now. I don't know what they'd have to put in to do that resource-wise, but for me, it doesn't sound like it'd be as as intensive resource-wise as ground up building a strike. But that's just me. I don't know everything. I'm not going to claim to, but I just hope that strikes are held up to a certain quality. And the reworks that we got last season to Arms Dealer and Lake of Shadows, I like the Arms Dealer changes. I don't like the Lake of Shadows changes at all. I hate the payload section. It's just needless bloat. But I do like that they updated those strikes to fit the current setting of the world at the moment. One thing I wish they did was keep the old version still in the game. That way you could play either one. Because, maybe they only make the new Lake of Shadows valid as a Nightfall. But in Vanguard Ops, you can still play the old one and launch the old one. Same with Arms Dealer, because those two were way easier before they were reworked. Reworks are the only ones that are eligible for Nightfall. Maybe. I don't know. That's just how I feel about that. So, in the existence of dungeons, all 6 of them that we have, 6 or 7, only one is ever released free. But I think we need more dungeons that are free to play, because I feel like dungeons are a great stepping stone for new players to learn about endgame before they do a raid, especially LFG wise, because that's meeting 2 people versus meeting 5 people. And mechanically, they're usually not as complicated as a raid. Free raid wise, we have Vogue and King's Fall. I think Vogue is a great beginner raid. I think King's Fall is a pretty good intermediate level raid. It's not... I would say Deepstone is more mechanic heavy. I wouldn't say it's harder. It's just more mechanic heavy than King's Fall is. That's probably not right, but that's just how I feel. I need to be paying more attention during Deepstone Crypt to callouts than I do in King's Fall. But dungeon-wise, we don't really have that. It just introduces people the idea of learning mechanics. And Prophecy does an okay job at that. But I feel like if we got a free dungeon every once in a while, not every year, I'm not even saying that, just every once in a while, that'd be nice. Or alternatively, we can make Forsaken and Shadowkeep both free and reduce the price of the 30th anniversary. Now, let me talk about this for a second. Forsaken, it's $7 for a raid, a dungeon, access to some strikes, and a bunch of exotics. Just get rid of it at this point. Make it all free. And Shadowkeep, I feel like the new player experience overall is awful. It doesn't really teach players the game, and it's hard for the new light experience to drag players in. I feel like if you just did the Cosmodrome mission, you get in the ship and you leave, you could abandon the quest and you're good to go. I feel like that would be fine. But for that to work, I feel like we need a campaign in the game for free-to-play players. And I feel like Shadowkeep, it's by far not my favorite campaign in the game. It's my least favorite that's still in the game. But I feel like if it's still in the game, that'd be a great place for players to start. It has a story that you follow along and you learn the game naturally. And Guardian Ranks will help you also learn through a pretty good process of how to do things. So I feel like the combination of Guardian Ranks and making Shadowkeep free, you can make the new player experience pretty decent. And with Shadowkeep being free, that's an additional dungeon, an additional raid, and more exotics for new players to snag without, shelling out a lot of money. So that would bring, if Forsaken and Shadowkeep were both free, That's 3 dungeons that new players could play. And 4 raids, almost 5 when the new one comes out next season. So I feel like that would make the free-to-play more inviting for people to continue playing the game. And I feel like while we're at it, let's just reduce the price of the 30th Anniversary Edition. Because, like, that's a celebration. And it's 1 dungeon and some cosmetics. It's $25. It's more than a dungeon pass. It's 1 dungeon for the price of 2.5 dungeons. Because it's 2,000 silver for a yearly dungeon pass. 30th Anniversary is $25. Why is that? Like, if 30th Anniversary was $10, I'd be fine with it. It's an old dungeon at this point. It would bring more access to G-Horns so it could be used by more people. I don't feel like anyone's losing out if it's $10. We have an ever-evolving world that doesn't change. I've talked about this a little bit before, and I feel like spitting in the face of this is, Arms Dealer and Lake of Shadows, because I want old content to be updated every once in a while to meet the current narrative that's happening and be updated to fit the needs of the game now, because we're more powerful than ever. And there's a lot of cool things happening in the game, like Hive Lightbearers. We're dealing with them this season, but we really haven't dealt with them since Witch Queen. And I feel like that's a shame, because they're super cool to fight. I love fighting them. They're my favorite, boss mechanic. Tormentors are fine, but I prefer fighting Hive Lightbearers. I would love to see them in more parts of the game. So that's just kind of a complaint there. It doesn't feel like a lot of content changes throughout time. And then ability diversity. Yes, there's so many ways you could build into your subclasses, but Stasis and Strand both have the issue of each subclass only has 1 super and 1 melee, and they have 3 grenades. There just isn't that much. You can do a lot, but you can't do that much. So if we added more aspects to the light subclasses and Strand, and more melees and supers to everything that only has 1 of those, there's so many more options available. So if you don't like a subclass as it is currently, maybe if there's more options, you could find a way to build around it that you like more. And I think that's important. I don't think that's a pressing matter now, but probably post final shape, or whenever we get a 6th subclass, after that, you kind of do subclass 4.0, where you just kind of take a pass through subclasses and add things to them throughout the year. I don't know. That's just a wish list thing I have. I'm not going to give any suggestions for abilities, but I'm sure you could find tons out there. Anyways, that's just this video. Next week I'll probably be praising Bungie, because I feel like it's important to say what we do like. So yeah, that's going to be it for today. See you next time.